Assalamu alaikum and hello. Many of you may not have known, I spent from the age of 19 well into my 20s, I spent it in London chasing the corporate dream, working the corporate lifestyle, living large, living extravagantly, traveling Europe and holding down sometimes 5 jobs in one go. There was no one I knew that was more determined, more hungry for success, more hungry for climbing up the corporate ladder, more hungry for evolution and growth, and not forgetting money. I made so much money for my companies, the corporate beasts, mega corporations, all of the companies that I worked for, I worked myself to the bone. I don't know if I was overcompensating for something, but I was sure as hell driven by a need to either prove to myself that I could do it or compete against myself, because I'm always competing with myself, not against other people, and of course perfectionist, always being really hard on myself and wanting the best and wanting very competitive. Now one would say that I was always in my masculine, of course a very go go go, get shit done, power forward, power through the day, lots of coffees, lots of energy drink. I measured time down to the millisecond. And it was so extreme, the type of life that I was living, that it's absolutely no surprise that I suffered through burnout. I mean, if you would consider that I used to run in heels, so they're a bit bent out of shape, but these are my London tackies. These are Stuart Weitzman's, my favorite pair of shoe of all time, hands down. I've actually had to put metal heels on them. I don't know if you can hear me clang them together. These are metal heels, and the reason why I actually had to put metal heels on these babies, can you see, very pointy, very comfortable for some reason, and that's what you get when you buy designer labels, the ones that count, the ones that matter. Not to flex, to show you that quality does sometimes count when it comes to brand names. Well, I call those my London tackies, and that's because I used to literally run to catch the bus and run to catch the train in those heels. I would wear them all day and sometimes all night as well. I would literally live in them. Don't ask me how they've built such strong shoes. Well, I had others that were similar to that, but those were my favorite. And those I still have up to this day. And I used to measure my time at the train stations down to the second based on the pace that my feet would move. So how fast I would walk based on on the train times and how quickly the trains moved and how quickly I moved, and how I would need to be at a certain spot by a certain time, and even 2 seconds lagging would actually change and ruin my routine or my schedule, and I would fall out of my time frame that I had set for myself. That's because the life that I had sewn together was so finely stitched that I really didn't have much wiggle room for, you know, anything out of my normal routine, which was going to 3 jobs in a day at times and working night shifts as well. So many different jobs. I'll probably do another video for that, but basically working, trying to succeed, aiming for the top, hungry for dunya like no man's business, always trying to be the best at everything and succeeding in many things. I was manager at a company called Bulldog Broadband, and they were from Cable and Wireless, which is like Telcom in South Africa. And I had 6 guys in my team. I was their manager, and I was an absolute ball breaker. I was a nightmare because I was a perfectionist. I wanted everything done just so, and I had my team really achieve amazing off-the-wall KPIs. I had Navy SEALs praise me, I had Italians praise me, and I worked with Jewish Germans as well, some of the hardest to please people in the world. So my point is, I was in my masculine all the time. I hardly had a moment to think, to feel, to even taste my food. All I knew it was fuel, and it needed to fill a hole and go, go, go. Onto the next thing, onto the next thing, onto the next thing, onto the next thing. And it was an endless stream of things to do, an endless stream of things to achieve, things to get done, an endless list of things to take off, an endless just to-do list that seemed never ending. And no matter how much I did, I would always not get stuff done, and it was very exhausting. So come full circle, now that I have come back to South Africa, of course, and not forgetting I did spend 7 years in Saudi Arabia, but that was completely a different story. I want to slow down. I want to relax into my feminine. I want to feel and actually live. For the first time in my life, I want to experience life. And that is why I started with the surfing, with all of the activities that I've been doing. It's because I needed to slow down and reel back a whole lot of pressure that I had put on myself to achieve, to succeed, to have lots of money, to, you know, just be this masculina, boss babe, boss bitch, don't need no man, independent bullshit nonsense. So, you know, I bought into that narrative hook, line and sinker. Deep down, I've always wanted to be a mother and a wife. And coming full circle from my London experience, which was 7 years chock full of lusting after the dunya and working my lady balls off, you know, coming full circle here, I've come to realize that it was the illusion that we were fed in order to feed the big beast oligarchs and corporate giants. You know, those years I will never get back. Of course, you need the money to live a certain lifestyle that, you know, you get trapped in. And then you need to solve the depression that that lifestyle causes you. And you end up buying all the stuff that they tell you you need in order to feel better. So it's an endless cycle of getting caught in this matrix. My journey into femininity has helped me understand I'm okay as I am. And that is a huge thing to say and very controversial, because how dare you? How dare you as a woman think that you're enough, that you're okay as you are, that you don't need to push through more struggles and hustle and take more hits and more knocks and burn yourself out to a crisp and suffer from mild strokes and an early death. I've seen so many women in my family suffer this fate. They've burnt themselves out. Not only were they amazing career women and heads of companies and professionals and you know, top doctors, lawyers, at the same time they maintain their households, their families, and in many cases they actually adopted a lot of what is known as the man's role and duty, whether it was taking out the trash, aside from cooking and, you know, managing the maids and a bit of cleaning. But she also had to drop and fetch kids, maintain X, Y, and Z, take care of her husband who had become another one of her children. This wore a lot of women down. So this wearing down of the feminine had led many of them to lose the luster on their faces, to lose their bright, radiant spirit, to lose the joy, which they may not have even had in the first place because life had not allowed them the luxury. And it's not a luxury, it's a basic necessity in order to live and actually experience life, because you're going to die anyway. And how many years of your life have you actually lived? So how much of life was actually in your years is what I'm getting at. And part of embracing your femininity as a woman is making sure that you are a beacon of light for the world. And you cannot do that if you're burning yourself out. It's just so amazingly counterintuitive. And ironic. In order to be your happiest, most productive, most creative, you need to be in flow state, and you need to not be stressed out, and you need to be calm and relaxed, and you cannot have people, you know, expecting you to pick up their slack because they've dropped the ball. And so all of this adds up to a lot of pressure that modern women face, turns them into men. Over-functioning, over-providing, over-servicing, overdoing, overacting machines. And you find that the woman will suffer from many health ailments, as well as when you're actually spending time with her, you'll notice that her breathing is very shallow. She's always stressed, she's always darting her eyes around looking for something to do and feeling useless if there's nothing for her to do. So there's so much I can say about femininity, but this is kind of just an insight into my journey and why I wanted to reverse the damage that I had done in my early 20s in London, because it had put me in my masculine, which was totally energetically out of my own frequency, and made me feel like I had to be a man in order to survive in this world. And it is the greatest casualty of life if you feel like you need to completely sacrifice your femininity as a woman, which is one of the most beautiful energies that this world has, that Allah has created. And you have to sacrifice that in order to survive, in order to keep the ship afloat, in order to keep things moving forward, because without it you feel like you will sink, or you will struggle or suffer, or nothing will get done, or the whole entire household will collapse. that is a huge burden for any woman to bear. And if anything, I hope that my journey into femininity will help women regain that lost joy, that inner girl, that wounded girl, that traumatized girl from her childhood, possibly, that, you know, wants to come out so badly and has been dead and buried for years because she feels like she doesn't have a place in this world and there's not much joy to be had. And I hope to change all that, because there is. And I want you to live, really be alive and feel alive, not just live and then die and then not even feel like you lived at all. Anyway, I hope you'll join me on this journey, and a lot of videos to come are going to be tackling examples of this. For example, the art of slowing down and how to do it, and cure anxiety in the process. So I hope that you will enjoy this journey and join me with it, and speak to you next time. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.